Alright, so in this video we're going to be taking a look at the updated organ in the recently released Bitwig 2.0. So just like the other updated devices in Bitwig 2.0, the main thing that they've done is they've stripped out all the modulators from the device itself and moved them over to the modulator slots that we now have in Bitwig 2.0. We'll be looking at those modulators in another video, but let's say for example I wanted to add an LFO to the organ. I just click on one of these plus slots on the left hand side, and if I can't see those, I'll expose them by clicking on the little Bitwig modulator button, show modulator. And I could click on that, go find an LFO, add it in, map it out to some parameters, adjust the LFO settings itself, and now my organ has a LFO. So let's quickly return back to the default preset. So the lay of the land with the organ is the main window here is our drawbars that represent different tones of specific relationships to the note that we're playing that we can pull in and out to create complex tones. At the very top we have the option for choosing the basic timbre of each or the basic timbre that each one of these bars then represents. So to make this simpler, let's go ahead and start by bringing all of these bars down to the bottom, reducing all of their volume. And let's select the pure tone up top here. And we'll talk about the differences between those two in a second, or between the three in a second. So now if I play a note, if I bring up a bar, now you can see that we've got a nice pure tone coming out of it. It's nearly a sine tone. If we look at our oscilloscope, it looks a heck of a lot like a sine tone. If we look at the spectrum analyzer next to that, we can see that it's mostly one big low frequency. But then above that, it's got really quietly, but it does have some harmonics happening above it. So it's just a barely rich, harmonically rich sine tone. So then what each one of these bars represents over here is we could think of it as harmonics above our fundamental. But what's kind of deceiving about this from some other bar graph oriented additive synthesizers like the organ here is that the fundamental is the third bar here, or as they labeled it, the primary frequency or bar. And then going up from there, we get our next harmonic up. And then deceivingly again, the next harmonic is over here. And then the next harmonic. Now it goes up as we would expect. And each one of these adds in another harmonic, creating a gradually richer tone. The lowest bar then represents the sub bar or subtone to our primary. So this is the octave below. So we can use these to shape the type of sound that we're looking for, getting typically organ-esque sounds. Then if we look at our options of pure, rich, and full up top here, if we start with just our basic primary bar all the way up, we look at the output, we can see that it's nearly a sine tone. If I switch it to being rich, you can see it's just a little bit more bite to it, as well as those harmonics have jumped up a little bit. So toggling again back to pure, those harmonics drop down in amplitude quite a bit, back to rich, back up again. And if I go to full, we can see that we've got nearly a saw wave at this point. And even if we look at the oscilloscope, we can see we're only kind of getting the positive side of a sine tone. It's kind of like folding itself back over a little bit there. And we're getting a really harmonically rich spectrum as a result. So now each one of these bars is introducing a similar waveform with a similar spectrum or harmonic presence. So as I bring this one up, get a very full or very rich sound when we're not working with pure. So that's the drawbars and the spectrums that they can create or add in to our sound. The retrigger here retriggers the phase on key press, causing a softer attack without the random clickiness of a real organ. So if we don't have that turned on, then all of the oscillators that these bars represent are kind of free running in the background, meaning that they're moving through their sine tone or rich complex oscillations. And every time we trigger a note, they're not necessarily restarting back at the beginning of their oscillation or at a zero crossing, a point at which the speaker cone wouldn't be pushed out nor pulled in. And so if I trigger a note, we might catch it in the middle where that speaker cone would be instantaneously pushed out and we'd get a pop sound at the beginning of that note. Now, it may not necessarily happen for all of the drawbars that we have here, but it could happen for one or a couple of them or all of them, giving us varying degrees of poppiness at the beginning of our sound. So that retrigger would smooth those out and give us a little bit more consistent of a sound, but kind of in my preferences that most of the time I like a little bit of grit going on in my track, that this digital world is a little too perfect and I like a little bit of imperfections in my track. So your choice, retrigger on or retrigger off, or restarting the phase of these drawbars oscillators. So then underneath that, we've got our global transposition or pitch amount for this. So if we go back to just the one bar, oops, so we have a simple sound to deal with. Transposing it up or down. We have the option for glide, so if I play a new note, does it take any time to get there, and how much time does it take to get there? Then we've got a basic attack and release envelope, so when I start playing the note, how long does it take for it to reach its maximum volume? We could have an instantaneous attack, or we could smooth that out over a maximum of 10 seconds. We won't make the whole 10 seconds. So attack time and then release time. So once I release the note, how long does it take for it to die away in volume? Let's go a little bit longer, maybe nearly a second. And then that brings us to our global section where we have a slot for dropping in note effects for processing the incoming MIDI data, effects for processing the outgoing audio from the organ, the option to turn it on to a monophonic mode, meaning we can't play more than one note at a time, whether or not there's a single triggered envelope, so when I play one note, even if I have a long attack time, you'll hear that all the notes that I play after that are just immediately on because we're only triggering that attack and release volume envelope, the first note that is played, and then as long as the notes are held or kind of played legato into one another, that envelope will never be retriggered until we release all notes and start playing again. Then the last one over here, the FP button is glide only on legato. So if I've got that enabled and I've got lots of glide time turned up here, and I play a note, oops, let's get rid of our attack time there. Play a note, and then I play another note. It will only slide to that next note if the first note is still being held at the time that the next note is played. So if I release this note and play a new note, there is no glide. But if I hold the first note while pressing the next note, it slides to the next note. So that's what that FP stands for glide on legato only. And that is the organ instrument. So it's kind of deceptively, there we go, simple. It seems kind of like a boring instrument and just kind of like, why did they even include it? Who needs an organ? But hey, everybody needs an organ. But also, this thing can get really interesting when we start piling in a whole bunch of modulators into it. So let's start by adding in an LFO. So I'm clicking on my modulator slots there, plugging in an LFO. And let's get rid of our glide and not have it be mono. And then let's have this LFO sweeping in and out some of these of our drawbars here. And let's bring in another LFO and have that also affecting some of our drawbars. Make these go down. And maybe go up on these guys. And then let's go in and let's change its rate a little bit. Maybe switch to pure. And we could add in an envelope as well. Let's go with an ADSR envelope and have that spike everybody up at the very beginning of each played note. And then gradually sweep down. So instantaneous attack, a little bit longer decay, and no sustaining value. And then of course if we add some reverb to that, peaking out a little bit, so let's bring down the overall volume. Maybe a little bit of slower attack. And there we can hear that issue of the retrigger in there, where every now and then when I play a note, we get a little pop. So let's turn on that retrigger to smooth out those attack times. It also might be that we've got instantaneous attack on our... There we go. Maybe we'll try switching over these LFOs to being per note or per voice. There we go. Now we've got a nice smooth sound. We can make these tempo synced. So let's go 16th notes. Do the same thing with this one. Let's go quarter notes. We could add in some delay to make this even more monstrous. Just go here and search for delay. Add in a stereo delay. Have the left side delayed by 3 and the right delayed by 5. Maybe we need one more LFO. So let's collapse that one down. Stick in one more LFO. It's going nice and slow. Maybe it's more sine tony. That just is modulating a couple of these way up, like so. Let's have it start 90 degrees so you don't get that popping sound anymore. Let's also have it be free running so it's not retriggering with our note. To get more complex. So that's the new organ instrument. Seemingly really simple and honestly pretty simple. But with the addition of those modulators in there, we can really start to get some really nice kind of pad sounds coming out of this thing, and it starts to become a little bit more than just an organ. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys found this video helpful, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, or leave any of your comments or questions below. Alright, thanks. Bye.